Hey folks, so with this video here, what I want to do is just kind of recap our beginner's electronics toolkit and see where we are with it and see where we've come with it. So if you recall, this was the initial kit. Before I had the scope probe and the alligator clips separated out, but I've decided to throw them in because I use them all the time. So that came out to $222.63. Now, a couple of things transpired along the way. First of all, the digital multimeter, it was fine at $25.98, but then when they upped the price to $37.04, and then it became unavailable, and then it was up over $40, and now it's come back right down to about $29, but under a different brand name. So as far as I'm concerned, it's unstable. I mean, you could get it, you couldn't get it. In the meantime, I've given it to my son. He wanted to check out some wiring he had done on his motorcycle, so I gave that to him. He hasn't given it back, but that's okay. I don't want it back. It wasn't a great little meter to begin with. We have a much better one, so we'll get into that in a second. And the adjustable bench power supply. Oh man, that's this thing. I mean, this thing was just a wreck. It's nice little form factor and all that, and I had my hopes up for it, but it's just trash. So that got replaced. And I noticed that it's no longer available currently on Amazon where we got it originally. So I don't know what's with it. I don't know if they've realized that it is a piece of junk and they're not going to provide it anymore or what. I don't know if I'm going to try and fix it. I mean, it is so egregiously bad that I don't think I can fix it. I mean, like the amount of effort it would take to fix this thing is ridiculous. What I might do is maybe build something else into this case. And I still haven't decided yet. Anyway, it continues to exist around here, taking up space. And everything else. So let's go down through all the other stuff. The function generator is okay. I mean, it does provide signals. It does have its issues, but I can't find anything that comes close to being able to do what this can do for that kind of money. So it's under $14. I think we got this as a kit and built it up, and it's pretty useful. I mean, we did use it and the oscilloscope to do a bode plot of the oscilloscope to find out its frequency response, and it did a pretty good job. But so far we haven't used it for much else. But nonetheless, it does remain functional in its way. It'd be nice, though, to get something that would be considerably better. But the oscilloscope, on the other hand, is actually quite usable up to its rated bandwidth. It really is quite nice. I mean, the display is big enough to see what you're looking at. It responds fairly well. And, along with this probe here that we got, it makes a fairly nice little oscilloscope. I mean, it's not going to be any good for digital work. It's not going to be any good for radio frequency work. But for audio work and for just looking at low frequency signals, just to get your feet wet in electronics, it's good for that. Now, some of the stuff that's been truly amazing is this soldering iron. Like this thing is, I am so surprised with this. Like, this is only $27.11, and I know you can get cheaper soldering irons, but this comes with a temperature control with a digital display on it. And it takes very, very common and easy to find tips. And it's the very same tips that I have on my other soldering irons. The only thing I've noticed about it, and it's exactly the same with those other soldering irons, is that this ring here you need to check this before you turn it on each time, because the warming up, expanding and contracting has a cools down, tends to loosen this nut off. But like I said, exactly the same thing happens with my more expensive irons. But this thing, it's great. It warms up quickly, maintains a nice constant temperature, is nice, light, easy to handle. It's a great little iron. So I treated it to a stand. Now this is something that ended up, do I have it in here? Soldering stand. It cost $5 on eBay. Now I did add some washers in here to give it some weight. There's some washers I had lying around, but it's a nice little stand. It is about 1,000,000 times better than the stand that came with the iron, which is really not a stand. It's more of a pain in the ass, basically. it really is not a pleasant thing to use. So the hand tools have been great. This thing is precise. It works very well. It doesn't damage the wire, the copper inside, if you select the right size. So it does exactly what it's supposed to do, and I use it all the time. I use this all the time as well, this flush cutter. It does exactly what it's supposed to do as well. Does a nice job. And these pliers and cutters here, they work exactly as they're supposed to. So I have no complaint with them. I use them all the time too. I use the solder sucker. It's very effective as well. So all in all the tools that we got have been really, really good. And I especially like this screwdriver set. The one thing I really like about it is that you can use them like this if you don't have to apply a lot of torque, or if you do have to apply more torque, you can put the handle on them, and they have a very, very nice amount of magnetism on them. We got this little spool of wire. We've been using that for some of the things that we do, and you trim off little bits of it and you make it up and apply it. Like we applied somewhat to this surplus speaker that we had here. We also made up our 555 timer project. We cut off little pieces, and then what you do with those is you save them, like all the components and little bits of wire that you've already cut and trimmed. You keep them in a bag so that you don't have to do that again. You can always reuse these over and over and over and over again. And of course the breadboards is what you use those with, those components and those little bits of wire. And we've used these effectively as well too. We've only used one so far. Yeah, so I think that covers pretty well everything that we use all the time. And there isn't any one thing that I don't think we'll ever use again. This little oscillator, I have my doubts about it. Got my eye open for a replacement for this. Something a little bit more effective. Something that doesn't have some of the issues this has with levels and DC offset and other things of that nature that this thing has. The big changes have been, A, the meter. So I decided to go with this Kaiweets HT118E. It is so much better meter than that little AP42B, that little blue thing. It's a real meter. I mean, it's got all the functions you need. It's got a really sturdy construction. It's got a rubber outer liner on it. The non-contact voltage works extremely well. Everything works very well on it. The only thing it's missing is a relative function. If this had a relative function, it would be fantastic. But one of the reasons I'm going to stick with this as a part of the kit, now it is more expensive. You can get it for $67 over on Kaiweets' website. It's going to be a Kaiweets HT118E, and it's going to be available for $67. Now, I'm not saying it's going to stay that way forever. Maybe 5 years from now, they might drop it, or they might up the price, or whatever. But it is, it's a good, reliable meter from a good, reliable source. It's a quality instrument. You won't go wrong with this for many years. And it comes in a nice case. It comes with a nice, fairly nice set of probes. And the little case is nice as well. So that's where we are with that. Now the power supply. So we replaced that horrendous power supply with this one. And this one is a much, much nicer power supply. So I still put a little capacitor across it. It's just something I do. Anyway, this is it's a linear power supply. It's very nice and quiet. It behaves fairly well. And it's completely isolated. Unless you want to ground it, and you can ground either side or the other. You can put two of them together to get a split supply or to add up the voltage. But this one here is 15 volt 2 amp. And since we got it, we picked it up for $53, and I thought it was a pretty decent bargain for that. But since now I see it's up to $113. There are power supplies in exactly the same form factor that are 30 volts and 5 amps for $20, $30 less than this. So I don't know what they've done with their pricing. I mean, I certainly would not buy this in light of the other products that are out there for that kind of money. I don't know why some of these manufacturers do this to themselves. If I had my choice right now and buying a power supply like this, since I know that these are nice linear power supplies, I'd opt for the 30 volt 5 amp version for $20 less. And I'm sure anybody would. Now, the only thing that the only thing I don't like about this power supply is the lack of heat sinking. So it's just thin metal about this thick on the back of the thing. They've got the transistor, and it's a great transistor. It's 23055, fantastic transistor, but it doesn't have a lot of heat sinking. Now, when you're using this thing at close to full amperage, so if you set it up for 2 volts at 2 amps, this transistor is dissipating a lot of watts, and the temperature rises rapidly, and it potentially damages itself pretty quickly. So the only thing that I can think of to do to this would be to add a heatsink, kind of like this one here, and that would fit perfectly across the back of this. And this would provide enough heat sinking to run this thing at 2 volts and 2 amps. So that you would be throwing away about 40 watts of heat, but that will easily dissipate 40 watts of heat and keep that transistor in a nice operating range. So that's it. That's where we are. And because of those changes, the price of the kit has gone up a little bit. So we started off around about $222.63 if we include the probe and the alligator clips, and I think we should. And that's Canadian dollars. So yeah, that's not too bad. I mean, there's not a huge expenditure. So if you bought a kit like this, tried out electronics and decided, I don't like it that much, you haven't spent much more than a night out at the pub. And you can always sell it. I mean, you pack it up and give it to somebody else, and charge them $150 for it. But now we've moved ahead a little bit. We've certainly improved the multimeter, and we've certainly improved the bench power supply. But we've also put up the price by about $56 in the process. However, I think it's money well spent. So we've got the soldering iron stand put in there. We've got the better power supply. And we've got the much better meter for our extra money. Yeah, I still think we're very reasonably priced here, and we have a very, very nice kit. Like I said, there isn't much I've been doing since I started this YouTube channel. I started off with this kit that I've had to go to something else, except for if I'm, looking at something at much higher frequency. Like some of the projects I've been doing with the oven-controlled crystal oscillators, and fixing up that little frequency generator, and some of those other things where I need to bring in an oscilloscope or something like that. That's beyond the capabilities of this one. And that's really the only times I really strayed from this. But even in doing those things, like whenever I assemble something, I use these tools. I use this soldering iron. Yeah, so these are good, effective tools. All right, guys, so that's where we are with this right now. The boards are going to be in from PCBWay to do the little time domain reflectometer thing. So that's going to be my next video. Look for that in a couple of days. And I'll show you how you use one of those things, and how you can actually measure things with the speed of light. Like it's quite amazing. And for that, of course, I'm going to have to use a considerably faster oscilloscope, because this thing is not going to be able to deal with the speed of light. All right, thanks guys. See you in the next one. Bye.